Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 1 of the LeafyTV podcast. I'm your host, Leafy, Sid, whatever you know me by, joined by my good friend, NugeTV. Nuge, hello.
Hello, I'm Nuge.
You want to give a quick little intro, who you are, what you do here?
Yeah, I'm an NHL content creator on Twitch. I do a little bit of YouTube, and I'm an EA GameChanger. So that's basically what I spend my time on.
Alright, seems good. So, today we're just gonna go through, ask some questions, talk about NHL basically. Pretty much just interested in what you have to say about the game in its current state, how you think it could be improved, just general stuff like that, casual conversation, and interested to hear a lot about, the ideas that you might have, um, for, creative stuff that maybe would improve the game. So, just to get started, we can talk about just general gameplay stuff. How you feel about NHL in its current state right now. How do you feel, daily when you gotta start up stream?
So NHL right now is in a weird spot where I feel like we've been doing a gameplay update for a while. Um, Unfortunately, we haven't really gotten one. We have really good mechanics in the game that make playing full human games pretty entertaining. And obviously, there's always going to be issues, but it's in a pretty good spot compared to previous years. But playing with the AI currently, in my opinion, is one of the worst it's been on next gen or current gen, I guess, since we already have new consoles. Um, it's like it's not good. It's tough to get on stream and be excited to play HUT,
Mhm.
and that's obviously a pretty bad struggle for me.
Right. So you're not a big versus guy, mostly HUT,
Correct. Yeah.
ESHL. I know you hate versus.
Mhm.
The game's balanced in versus though, which is how there's obviously a big difference between HUT versus an ESHL three, the three different ways to play online. Um, do you think that there should be separate tuners and things like that to kind of help with the fact that there's that discrepancy between the good human games with the bad AI games?
I don't know because I don't think a tuner or change between the modes would really do anything. Because it's AI behavior that doesn't change no matter what difficulty you're on. Like, you can watch people play Superstar AI in squad battles or whatever, and the AI behave the same way. And I don't think any sort of small tuner will change anything. I think it's all based on AI behavior. Of course, I'd like to be able to do like custom tuner type things where like you can test different things with your friends, and then maybe you could find some like magical setting that could make the gameplay better with AI.
Mm.
But it like, I just don't think it's possible that a tuner would really, um, change anything with the AI in its
So,
current state.
what is it that's so bad about the AI that's really affecting the gameplay and HUT?
They so, this is from my understanding, I'm sure there are better players than me that have different understandings, but there's a lot of situations where the AI get very caught in focusing man on man.
Mhm.
And what will happen is it's up to you as the player to determine which man your AI is covering. And it's really hard in certain situations to understand because it looks like they're covering the most dangerous player on the ice. They're standing right next to him. But really, they're looking at a guy that just got out of the like bench for a line change, and that's the guy they think they're supposed to cover. So then they'll run away from the guy that's wide open, or that will be wide open back door. And it's so consistent that when I'm playing HUT, there are certain situations where I'll be just standing on the boards, curling the puck. I know the guy's not coming to hit me, so I have all the time in the world. I won't look at anything other than the backdoor pass, and it will always open up if the guy's not human covering it. And there's no reason it should, because there's an AI standing right next to him, and there's no one dangerous that that guy should be going to cover.
Right. So, do you think that, like, obviously there's a big issue with making the AI better because people always complain about skill zoning and things like that. Like, what's your take on that?
It can work both ways, right? If you have AI that's horrific at certain things, the human will have to cover those things. And right now, the thing the AI is the worst at is covering the front of the net, which encourages people to skill zone.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, you don't want the AI to be stripping people of the puck constantly, going for hits, doing all sorts of crazy things. But I do think having the AI be better the closer they are to their net makes a lot of sense to me. Um, they should be really bad at forechecking. That should be something you should have to do as a human. But as they get closer to the net, I think they should be a little bit better or at least more passive. That way, if you want to set up plays that are on the outside, different cuts, and more creative plays, you can do it because the AI won't be jumping passing lanes constantly. But if you want to force something through the middle, you better hope someone drags someone out of position.
Right. So I'm one of the big complaints, obviously, with the gameplay this year is the fact that there's really little gameplay variety and little scoring variety. Like every goal feels very repetitive. Feels like every goal is a cross crease essentially. So your big thing on that is that you think that if the AI was better at covering them, then it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, because if they're better at covering that, they should conversely be worse at covering things higher up in the zone and the high slot, um, and in different places on the ice. Because if they're taking that away, they're not taking something else away.
Hmm. And you're definitely like one of the more creative players, I think, as far as trying random stuff. It's not always effective, but at least you push the
Mhm.
buttons.
Yeah.
Um, how do you feel about the tools that the game gives you right now to do those creative things? And do you think like there's you know things that we should have that would help with scoring variety and creativity in the game, or do you think we have enough and that it's just more like the meta and the AI that's kind of hindering that?
Really do think we have a lot of offensive tools. I think you could always add a little bit more, because the more offensive, creative things we can do, the better. But I do think there is a lot of stuff you can do. You can use the left trigger to modify different deeks by like changing your body angle before you do them. And there's a lot of skill gap in that. But the problem is you have a skill gap there where like people can get better at it, but they're getting better at it for almost no reason because of the meta of the game being so easy offensively. Where like the more simple you play, the better almost always.
Right. So, is that like your ideal state of the game where it's the game encourages more of that creativity and you find like the high end players using a lot more of the moves and loose puck deeks and stuff that we have that you don't really find so much in high end gameplay right now?
Yeah, of course. I think the more options you force people to use, or not force, but like the more options you encourage people to use and the more things that are effective, the better it will be because you'll have to actually make decisions in situations. Whereas now there's only a couple options, so your decisions are kind of like keep possession, force back door, take slap shot, or what I find the decisions are. But like if you're going into a situation and you have like a certain LBD that you think can beat an AI or beat a human defender, and then maybe there's like a way to score short side off of that LBD because of the way the goalie reacts to it, it would be a lot better than kind of having to set up the same shot, the same pass back door. Um, but at the end of the day, people are going to kind of figure out the most effective ways to score no matter what they are.
Right.
And if there's a way to like abuse a certain LBD or abuse a certain move, they're gonna do it. So they obviously can't be too overpowered.
Right. Do you think that they're in a good spot right now as far as the effectiveness goes, or because a lot of times people say that the you know puck or sorry deke success rate is like pretty bad or not good enough, or like
It's a
the between the legs deke maybe isn't fast enough, like things like that.
I think between the legs is in a good spot. I think a couple of the other ones could be a little better. Like the one where you just tap LB.
Hmm.
A lot of player or not a lot of players, but just a lot of the time the puck will just not come with you, and it seems like it should be the easiest one to do. But like through the legs and a few of the other ones that look tougher are relatively consistent in my opinion. I would obviously prefer it to be closer to 100% when you get to like 99 deking, but I know that's almost never going to be the case. It's just there's certain deeks that just don't make sense that get left behind, and it's the very simple ones that seem to be the most frustrating to fail on.
Yeah, no, it's for sure. I mean, I definitely can relate to that experience where sometimes you just want to do like that simple LB one and you lose the puck and it just doesn't really even make sense why. Um, okay, and then talk a little bit more about gameplay, and then we can go more into the mode stuff. How do you feel about bumps this year?
I actually think they're in a pretty good spot. It's one of the reasons I think the game human like with all humans plays relatively well.
Hmm.
You can bump someone from behind, obviously, if they're near the boards or if they're slowing down a lot. But a lot of the time, you'll bump them off the puck and they'll get it back. So you'll prevent them from making like a quick play, but you won't just like get free possession all the time, which I think is a good thing. And if they're skating away from you, like at full speed, generally you can't get them. So I think that's one of the main complaints from previous games. I actually think it's in a pretty good spot.
It's good. And then last question, kind of more open ended, as far as gameplay goes. So you've played this game for quite a long time, and I guess somewhat competitively going back like what, like 8, 9 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of times people refer back to the old games, and some of it's being looked at with nostalgia, but some of it there's good gameplay features in those. Is there anything from those old games that you genuinely think were good gameplay features, or things about the game in general that you would want to see return, or maybe like the direction of the game at the time that you would kind of like to go back to?
Um, Honestly, it's really hard to say because I know how heavy the nostalgia is.
Mm,
Um, I personally don't think the old games hold up like through time. I think especially like 14, which a lot of people look back to as like the premier, like the best NHL game.
right.
It's so slow. Like, it is incredibly slow. And at the time, I think, 1, we were used to it, and 2, I don't think people had improved as much as they have now. So, you could still see mistakes in the slow gameplay. People would still go out of position, people would make a lot of errors. Whereas now, if people had that much time to read the play, I don't think they would make those same errors. We didn't have, like, Twitch in the same way we do now. We didn't have, like, YouTube at the same level as it is now, where people can, like, watch really good players play, and I think that's
Mhm,
helped people improve, which has led to, um, kind of even though the game is much faster, people still make way less errors than they did back then.
r-
Um, I do think, like, feature-wise, I guess not gameplay-wise, like, practice mode was in a better spot back then for EASHL. I think, um, ESHL, like, standings and menus were a lot cleaner and stuff like that, but that's obviously a much less important thing than the gameplay.
right. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I haven't gone back and played the old games in a really long time, but I kind of feel like people think back on those as being faster. So it's funny that you mentioned how slow they were.
The straight line speed is so it was like, you can even just go watch, like, a highlight and you'll
Mhm.
notice it, like, you don't even have to play, it's just I actually couldn't believe how slow it was when I played it versus, like, my memory of it.
Yeah, maybe it's like the agility or something that people remember, like because the skating engines have changed and you could turn differently
Yeah,
back then. Like I think one thing that people always talk about is like the precise movements that you could make with your skating, because at the time it wasn't quite as, I guess, realistic as it is now.
yep.
So it's probably
Yeah,
what
and
made it
there
feel a little
were
bit faster.
I think you could also skate a little bit more easily while using the right stick, and I
Mhm.
think there might have been 45-degree cuts, but that was part of next gen as well,
Right,
for a bit. But the speed at which you did all that stuff was still way slower than it is now.
right. All right, well, we could pivot to talking a little bit more about HUT. So you mentioned before, obviously the AI gameplay is really making it not so enjoyable to get on and stream HUT. What
Mhm.
about the mode itself? You know, the ways that you can play it right now. How are you feeling about Rivals, Champs, Rush, and the schedule there?
I don't think it's awful. So for me, I'm always gonna be someone who likes to play game modes that have, like, a ladder or a leaderboard.
Hmm.
Pretty much every game I play has something like that, and Champs is what has that, right?
Yep.
There's very clearly where you stand. So I really do enjoy Champs every weekend. Even, like, if I'm not streaming, I would play Champs every single time. Um, Rivals, I think the mode is fine. I think it's good that it's in the game. I dislike it because I feel like every game, everyone's kinda just like it's a chore for people.
Yeah.
They're just like, "I wanna hit this rank so I get this reward. I'm gonna score my 5 goals. I don't really care whether I win or lose." And it's good practice, honestly, if you're trying to get a lot better. For me, because I don't enjoy the state of the game and I don't wanna get better at the game currently, um, I don't enjoy the mode. There have been multiple weeks this year where I have forgotten to play one Rivals game to get my rewards for it. Um, and I think at the start of the year, I played a lot because it's all we had, but
Right.
since then, I have done almost 0 games.
Yeah, and the common complaint about Rivals is that it's super repetitive, and that it doesn't really feel like you're playing for anything other than just going through the motions to get your packs.
Yeah, it's a time sink to get rewards for most people. Um, the thing is, I don't mind it as a mode just because it is really good practice if you take it as it. Like, if you're genuinely trying to get better, grinding Rivals is a really good way to do it.
Right.
It's just I can't do it. So for me, it's not good, but I do
um,
understand it's, like, not a bad mode.
what about the fact that they haven't, or I guess they didn't technically remove competitive seasons because it was there for like that one time. I think they had one season,
Mhm.
but it's pretty much been removed as well as online seasons. Do you have any feelings on that?
Um, I mean, I would prefer to play competitive seasons during the week. I think I would enjoy it a lot. I do think people unless the rewards were crazy, I think people will still complain, and I do think you'd stretch people thin, like, in terms of time, because like, you play 20 champs games on the weekend, I'm sure people would still play Rivals because they want the rewards, some people still play squad battles, and then they'd add comp seasons on top of that. Um, I do think it would be a good thing to bring back, like, maybe 1 competitive season per event, you could have it just be 3 days during a week, you could have it be, like, very short, almost like a HUT champs, but maybe with a different format or, like, some sort of restrictions, um, but I do get why it's not there.
Yeah, one thing that I always read is that people want competitive seasons back, but I've always wondered where they think they're going to find the time to actually play everything. Because when you have all these modes that really can be big time sinks, I don't really. I mean, me personally, I would never be able to play all my Rivals champs and CS games, but I guess there's a small small number of people who would. But yeah, I've always thought that that was kind of strange. Do you?
Yeah, it's
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
there I think it's just people want like, people will be playing Rivals to get the reward, and they're like, "Wow, I wish I was playing something more fun," but I don't think they realize that they would just be playing, like, 15 more games a week, and maybe some people would love that,
Mhm.
but I feel like people would just be more apt to complain because they're playing more and they're already, like, bored of Rivals, which they're grinding just as a chore, so
Right. Do you think that there are any other game modes within HUT like that NHL is missing? Like, I know you play FUT. And I'm not sure if you play any other sports games, but like people always point to MLB's BR mode. Is there any modes like that that you think that would HUT would benefit from?
I think, honestly, the BR mode's the only one that I would be interested in.
Mm,
I think the concept of, like, the 12-0 run, which is a lot harder than, like, 4-0, which is, like, FUT draft,
right.
is interesting because they can give a much better reward for 12-0. It rewards really good players, and it's obviously relatively good content for streaming or in YouTube.
Yeah.
So I think that mode would be really good. It would also give people, like, something to do midweek without needing a comp season. For the people like me that just don't enjoy Rivals, I can play 1 Rivals game a week, get the bare minimum rewards, and then if I really wanna play NHL during the week, I can play, like, 3 BR runs or something,
Right.
rather than, force myself to sit through Rivals, which obviously I haven't been able to do.
Right. What is you mentioned FUT drafts. What's that? What's going on there?
You draft a team, which is similar to BR or kinda similar to Hot Rush, obviously, but
Yeah.
it's always, like, the full 11 plus your bench. It's not like any sort of special mode. And then you play 4 games. When you lose, you're out, but if you win all 4, you get a reward. The rewards aren't very good, though.
Oh, okay.
Um, you can, like, slowly like, if you're winning a lot, you can slowly get, um I guess, get a little bit more coins because 'cause you'll get, like, decent packs. You pay 15K to get in, you get, like, 100K worth of packs back, but we all know when you get 100K worth of packs, you really get, like, 30K
Yeah.
because it's an EA sports game.
Yeah,
But if you're winning a lot, you will like accumulate value. It just will take a long time, or you'll
right.
have to get really lucky.
Is there anything else that FUT? I guess that I'm asking specifically about FIFA because I know that you put time into it. But is there anything else that FIFA does well that you feel that NHL is missing or that our HUT would benefit from?
I think FIFA does SBCs really well, which is similar to our sets. I
Okay.
think right now, unfortunately, our sets are very basic. It's like put gold player in or put whatever in, and it's always like very general. Whereas FIFA, you have SBCs which require you to basically build a team rather than like just put cards into a set. And the team will have to be a certain overall and have a certain amount of chemistry. Um, so I don't think we could do the same thing just because we don't have chemistry, we have synergies.
Hmm.
But you could do something where, like, instead of just needing 20 gold players, you'd need like 585 pluses and 2 team of the weeks and then like 3 gold players. Um, and it would give like untradables value that so like I have a lot of untradables that are like 84, 85, 86
Right.
that it feels bad to have untradeable because you could get a little value from them in coins. Um, but honestly, 86 base cards are pretty cheap right now anyway.
Yeah, it's
But it would
quite
give
late
those
in the year.
86 values on the market if there was a set that instead of needing like 50 random gold players, you only need like 586 pluses. Those 86 pluses would have more value. It would be more exciting to pull them. Packs
Right.
would be like a little bit more interesting. Um, so yeah, I would like something like that where our sets were a little bit more specific, where you could actually get value out of like high end untradables that you're not a big fan of.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a complaint that I've seen a lot is that people feel that the prevalence of untradeable cards right now is it's crazy and that there's they're feeling like there's too many that everything is untradeable and it's they don't like that.
Yep.
How about I like that idea though that you can do 86 pluses because that's not something that I've obviously experienced because I don't play other Ultimate teams, but it makes it a little bit different, makes the sets a little bit more engaging, but also at the same time it doesn't require a specific card, which generally like results in price locking and making like these dumb
Yeah.
random gold cards cost a lot, which is annoying.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. So, is there anything else with the like the sets and collectibles? People complain a lot about just like gold collectibles, tossing like 15 gold collectibles
Yep.
into a set, and boom, you get a player. Like, what is there anything else that you would think that would make the sets a little bit more engaging while also not making them overly complicated? Because I know in the past, like over the last couple years, probably going back to like 19 and prior, we used to have like the events would have like all these different collectibles. The one I remember most is a Thanksgiving event where we had like there was like 15
An
different Thanksgiving
acorn and a
collectibles and you had to add like
fucking
an
yeah.
acorn and yeah, and all these
Hmm.
different things to toss into the set. And it was just like needlessly complicated. But it
Yeah, I
did
don't like
make it
that.
feel more, I guess, a little bit more engaging because you needed different cards and stuff to collect. What do you think about the
Yeah.
sets right now?
I mean, I don't think we should go back to putting like an acorn and a leaf and a witch's hat or whatever the old. I think that was always silly because it would always happen where the event first comes out, all those cards are worth like 30K. By the end of the event, they're all worth 2K, and it's
Right.
like, why would you ever buy them at the start of the event? So it's just like it forces you to be patient. Whereas gold collectibles, they'll spike a little bit at the beginnings of events, but it'll be, like, very minimal in comparison to, like, a 30K versus 2K
Yeah, it's just because
situation.
people are antsy.
Yeah, but I do think if they did more specific stuff like the 85 pluses or whatever, um, they could release rather like, keep the master set system, I don't think it's that bad, but they could release 1 or 2 cards every event that you're able to make untradeable, and I know people don't love untradables, but they could be, like, relatively cheap, not obviously as powerful as master sets,
Hmm.
but, like, somewhat fun to chase after or make, and then use that in your team. You wasted, like, 30K for, like, an 88 overall, and it's like, "Okay, I can use this for a couple weeks, we can move on from it, but then I can use that 88 later in a new set where I need, like, an 88 plus," and you can kind of cycle your untradables without feeling like you're stuck to anything. Because right now, no matter what untradable you make, you feel stuck to it unless it's a master set player, obviously, where
Right.
sunsets have come to help people out.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of people, which before the Sunset Slip we didn't know about, a lot of people were reluctant to actually do like master set untradeable cards for the early
Yep.
sets because they're like, I don't want to be locked into this 89 or 90 for the whole year, that I'm not going to be able to upgrade. And again, like we did get the sunsets and upgrade sets, but we didn't know that those were coming.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with the team builders. We had no idea
Yeah,
what was coming.
exactly.
So, like, I made one team builder set, and I was like, "Oh, this Larry Murphy's okay, but I kinda wish I didn't make him." And
Hmm.
then all of a sudden, the people that made all of them got, like, a huge
Huge
reward, and I don't
reward. Yeah.
like, I like that they did something with the team builder sets. I just really don't like how, 1, late it was announced, and then it just implemented right away, and then 2, just it seems like it's almost like an all or nothing. A lot like the 90s don't seem very good or worth making at all. The 94s are okay, but you already have to make 16
Yeah.
of the original team builders to get to the 94. And that's so many that, like, at that point, you might as well just save for the 98s. Like, you're already halfway. Um,
But the 98
and like,
is a massive investment for anybody, pretty much.
yeah, yeah, like the people that made like one or two team builders that want to like be able to upgrade them, they're sitting there like, oh wow, this is not for me. Like,
Yeah, and actually that brings me to another relevant question. What do you think of these alumni cards? Like, there's so many of them, and they're all like pretty much really, really bad. Not only
yep.
these team builders, but just like generally, there's just like a ton of alumni cards, and like none of them can skate. Like, are we? I feel like there's a missed opportunity there, but I also feel like maybe there's just not even a point to them being in the mode, because they're just so bad.
Yeah, I, it's really so other sports games I feel like don't have like the one attribute that completely determines how good a card is.
Right.
Um in FIFA, speed is obviously very important, but there are positions on the field that you can play with less speed. So like a card can have like 75 speed and still be good. Um and also the way it scales is a lot differently in FIFA as well. Like 95 doesn't feel that much different to 99. I feel like in NHL, uh every speed point is huge.
Yeah.
So like if you have an 85 speed player versus a 92 speed player, you're getting completely burned. Like most of the time, I know some people complain like, "Oh, my Guy Lafleur got caught by Chara," but
Yeah.
like most of the time, you get absolutely cooked. So I do think I do think something needs to be done with the attribute system that makes it so you can scale speed differently. Where like an 85 speed player isn't necessarily like molasses, where
Right.
currently they kind of are. Um, but that does make right now all these 85 speed alumni that are 90 overall, 85 and lower speed, really tough to justify using because they're just not good enough.
Yeah. And one thing, like, I generally like review the sets and stuff when the new events come out, and one thing that I always say is like maybe you could use this slower forward like on center and then have like two faster wingers, but in general I feel like speed is so important, even especially this year. Like I know that people always prioritize speed, but this year it feels even extra important. And so when I was looking over these cards, I'm like, man, I don't know that anybody's going to use any of these, even though they're 90 or 94 overall.
Yeah, it's like a one attribute game in a lot of ways. Like every attribute helps, but
Hmm.
you need at this point in the year, like if your base speed is an 88, your card just is going to be really hard to use, and it sucks, but it just is what it is.
Yeah. One big other thing that I wanted to ask about HUT is the packs. So you mentioned like before that you could get 100K in packs, but really you're only getting 30K.
Hmm.
Pack quality is something that people definitely complain about all the time, and also not only that they're not good enough, but also that they're the rewards for everything, that you don't get any guaranteed rewards. We've just finally gotten the first event I think ever that you can grind milestones or objectives for a card.
Yep.
Um, but other than this specific one where you can get one card, we haven't had anything like that. Where it's everything, all the rewards for everything, CS champs, unless you're a top whatever player.
20. Yeah.
Yeah, top 20 player, you get a card. But other than that, it's all packs. What do you think about packs?
On it, packs can't be better or everything gets really cheap. So
Hmm.
like it's really hard to Like, it sucks to say, but, like, packs are probably fine in terms of quality. Think, having either sets where you can get some guaranteed stuff, which they do a little bit, but it's always gold collectibles.
Right.
Like I said, going back to the more specific set stuff, that would be cool. That way you could, like, yeah, my packs were terrible, but I can do this set and guarantee like an 88 plus, and then
Mhm.
maybe you get lucky in that. Maybe you don't, but whatever. Um, and then in terms of, like, guaranteed rewards, I think it would be really cool to either use Rush, or even Champs to give people, like, a little bit more of a guaranteed reward, whether it be, like, an 85 plus pack for finishing top 500 in Champs, which could just give you, like, a base Matthews, but at least it's a more exciting thing to open than, like, a jumbo premium players pack a lot
Yeah,
of the time.
exactly.
I think if they did more variety in terms of, like, what they can guarantee from packs, it would be better for people. Or even just, like, giving everyone that finishes top 500 in champs, like, a gold collectible or something,
Yeah.
just to give, um, something of value to people, an untradeable gold collectible even.
That's definitely something that I experienced was that when I was playing, like, and I would open my rivals packs every week, and sometimes I did squad battles, and then you open them up, and like the best thing you get is an 83, and it's just like, why did I even do all this?
Mhm. Yeah, I think we get enough rewards, we just don't get any exciting rewards,
Yeah, I would
which
agree with
is
that.
frustrating.
So on the note of HUT Rush, I know that at the start of the year when we heard about it, you weren't so enthusiastic. What did you have? How have you felt about HUT Rush's first run, first year?
My I mean, my opinion of it hasn't changed in terms of, like, my enjoyment. I don't like it. It's not fun. People play it like they're playing rivals. They don't try to go for big combos. They just try to score cross creases to get the objectives done, to get the points, to get the rewards, which is fine. Like, people can play however they want.
Yep.
It's just not fun for me. The rewards aren't particularly great, and there's no competitive aspect to it, so it just doesn't interest me. Like I said, every game I play pretty much has a leaderboard,
Yeah.
that and this doesn't, so I don't enjoy it.
So how would you feel about a competitive version of HUT Rush? Like if they took the HUT Rush playlists and put it into a CS or something?
I would like that. I think it would be a good start. Um, I think it would have to be specific playlists, and it would have to be, like, they would have to do a lot of thinking of what playlist they would wanna use for it,
Hmm.
but I do think it would be fun. Um, or, like, going back to the BR thing, they could do specific Hot Rush playlists in BR format and just switch it every week, right?
Yeah. I think doing like a first goal wins with a BR format where you know 12 wins and you can only lose three. You can lose three times, right? Um,
3 is when you get
yeah,
eliminated.
right.
Yeah.
So I think that would be incredible content, at least for Twitch and YouTube. It would be so you'd be
Yeah,
on the edge of your seat for sure.
I would love that, and, like, it's obviously not like, first goal wins is never gonna be the most competitive, just like a best of 1 is a lot less competitive than best of 3, but it's really fun, and you don't need
Yeah,
every game mode to be the most competitive, you just need it to be somewhat
fun.
competitive. Yeah, somewhat
I
competitive.
Yeah, somewhat competitive and fun. Like that's the big thing for me right now in HUT is that I feel like Rivals is kind of lacking in fun. Champs is fine if you're enjoying competitive and it's always been the same. But then Rush is like kind of the opposite of Rivals where it's too casual and I don't know why I'm playing it.
It's too casual, but people don't play it like it's casual.
Right,
Like,
exactly. So you're
it's
not
almost
getting that
like
fun experience still.
the people I match up with there's no, like, skill-based matchmaking or whatever in Rush.
Mhm.
So, like, you match up with random people, but it's almost like they don't know how to do anything, so they're just cross creasing because it's literally all they know how to do.
Yeah, so you're just
Um,
playing Rivals but in a different mode basically.
yeah, you're playing, like, D5 rivals instead of D2 or whatever division you're in.
Right. All right. Well, that I think those are all the questions I had about HUT. So you can talk a little bit about World of Shell, and then I will let you go. Um,
Mhm.
so you like the gameplay in sixes.
Yep.
How about the mode itself? You know the ranking system, like the support for competitive stuff. Like, how have you been feeling about that?
Okay, so I think the ranking system was a good idea, the RP system.
Hmm.
I think there needs to be something tied to it. Like, if the winner of every month got entered into a tournament, if getting, like, Elite 1 gave you something a little bit more exciting than just an Elite 1 bag, which has random stuff in it, I think people would be more apt to grind it. Um, Most of the competitive support for the mode has been from the outside,
Right.
obviously. We've had, uh, Caps Gaming put on an event. We've had Columbus, the Columbus Blue Jackets put on an event. I'm forgetting one. Oh, the San Jose Sharks, put on an event. So, like, we've had 3 actual NHL teams put up pretty big money, to make the mode competitive, and it's had pretty good results. But in game, all of the rankings and everything just don't seem to matter
Mhm.
because most of the better players are focusing on those events, and then they're not playing any search games.
Right. And that's just it's the same problem that I guess we've had in past years is that nobody cares about the leaderboard because there's nothing to play for. So they've essentially just
Yeah.
made like a fancier one, but it's still exactly functionally the same.
Yeah, and it's also, like, relatively hidden still. It's
Hmm.
just not it should be in your face the moment you enter the game mode, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can rant about the menus if you'd like to for a minute here.
No, I can give a quick rant. I just think there should be more information surfaced to you when you go into the world of chill mode. You get a lot of options to click on, but you don't actually get any information. A lot of your screen is taken up by different menus you can go to, but none of it is. You just see like your record as a team. You don't see your
Right.
team's rank. You don't see any of the things that like you should be striving to improve. Because like obviously you're striving to improve your record, but like if you're like like you see people go into Twitch chats that are like kind of new, and
Yeah.
they'll be like, "Oh, my team's like 20-6. Is that good?" And it's like, well, you can go look, like there's a leaderboard. Like go
Yeah.
look. It's just yeah, it's frustrating that there's not more information surfaced to you without having to search.
Yeah. I mean, we don't need to get into the fact that every time you click on something, it takes you to a loading screen, but you know,
Hmm.
that is
Yeah.
also a big complaint, of course.
Hmm.
What about the build system right now? How do you think what do you think of the builds? Obviously everybody, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but the common complaint is that people want their custom builds back. What are your thoughts?
I mean, like builds aren't that important to me. So like I feel bad saying like I think it's fine because I know other people are like, no, you're an idiot. But like the best players have always been the best players, build or like being able to customize their build or not. So like right now you have options, which like it's obviously nice to have options, but they're limited and they're to a point where I think it's easier to explain to someone like why you're using a build. You can be like, "Oh yeah, I have puck moving D because you get a little bit more speed, and then I put these traits on to make up for weaknesses or like accentuate strengths, and then that's it." Rather than like having to go through like the 17 different attributes and setting them exactly where they need to be. Um, I, yeah, you could add more customization, but I think at the end of the day, the builds are in a point now where people do use different stuff. There is some, there are some builds that are more common, obviously,
Yeah.
um, but there's people at the highest end that use 2A D, puck moving D. People on wing will use puck moving D, sniper, dangler, 2A forward, grinder. Like I've seen all of that at the highest end of the game.
Yeah.
Centers will generally use 2A forward, playmaker, grinder, which I think is fine. You shouldn't like. I think it should be rare that a center at like the
Yeah, it
highest
makes sense
end uses.
positionally.
Yeah, it should be rare that they use like sniper or dangler, and then I don't know anything about goalies, so I'm sure maybe there's goalies that think builds are like solved or like there's no variety, but I think right now variety of builds is good, which means the system is good.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
think
my opinion.
the change that they made to the second version of the traits where it affects different attributes was actually really positive. Um and really good for
Yeah,
build variety.
it changed a lot because instead of having essentially half the traits be useless because they're just less
Right.
good versions of the other ones, it gives you twice as many options for each trait, which like if you do the math out, it gives you like infinitely more options.
Yeah, a lot more combinations.
Hmm.
And then so back to I guess leaderboards, like what about like incentives to play currently and like new like different ways that they could change World of Chell a little bit to make it better or more engaging. I know like one thing we've previously talked about was sort of like an LTM's idea where like maybe for one weekend they boosted like attributes or something like that. I do you want to talk a little bit about that idea that you had?
Yeah, I mean, that's an idea that I've brought up a few times,
Hmm.
like you said, like a limited time mode where everyone's attributes are like plus 10 all, or like they add a new trait and that new trait is like crazy. They have been adding new traits each season now, but
Yeah.
like obviously it's not an insane trait. Like there's only been one that I think people have actually been using.
Right.
Um, but I do think limited time modes would get people more engaged. And then the only other thing they can really do is have an incentive for the leaderboard. Um, all we have right now is I think the top team each month like gets their logo, not like their actual logo, but just like whatever logo they use in game,
Yeah.
um, gets like put on loading screens sometimes, which is good. They're surfacing some information,
Yeah.
but like that's not an incentive to play. That's just like
It's
it
just like
is a
a little
it,
thing.
mhm. It
Yeah.
gives you awareness that there's something going on. I don't know. The leaderboards I think need an incentive, and then limited time modes would be an awesome addition to that.
Do you think those incentives just simply come from like basically EA esports support and that's it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like one of the nice things about World of Chell right now is a lot of the esports is coming from the outside, which is good. But the problem is there's no like it would be nice if there was just one event that EA put on that you could like have in the back of your mind, cuz right now the last event that we've had scheduled is about to end
Hmm.
for sixes, and then we don't know what's coming next. But if there was like an event that you knew like in June, every month's winner is going to play out a bracket, um, you would have that to like know that's coming, and then if other stuff gets announced, great. But now we're kind of in a position where it's like we don't know if there's anything else coming. So we like everyone's kind of uh like people are still like practicing and stuff,
Hmm.
but no one knows what they're practicing for.
Right. So pretty much going back to like the olds end of the year tourney thing that they did those couple
Yeah.
years,
hmm
where you could
They were
kind
ahead
of
of their time.
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess so. Where you could kind of kind of always have that in the back of your mind like throughout the year so that you're always playing search games and getting that out of the way. And using search games for practice rather than always trying to set up challenge games against other teams.
Yeah, it would make everything a lot easier because since no one plays search games, everyone has to set up challenge games because everyone sets up challenge games, no one plays search games,
Yeah.
and it makes search games a lot less competitive because for the most part, if you're searching, you're matching up with people that are nowhere near your skill level if you're
Like
like a top 10 team.
yeah, the
Um,
LGCHL whatever.
Victoriaville Tigers or
Yes.
whatever. Yeah, exactly. Um, so and then you match up with that team and then you troll the entire game and then you like you basically get no practice out of it whatsoever, and in fact, you probably get worse. So
Right.
it's just it's currently a waste of time. But if you incentivize teams to search, um, the rankings would make more sense. And then if you match people near their ranks, they should get better team. Like all of it would come down to making the mode like giving people incentive to play the mode competitively, which would lead the game mode to be more competitive just from people actually using the search feature.
Right.
Um, and then the other thing that I think would make a huge impact is if they just I know this would be bad, potentially for certain people that don't like playing, with strangers, but just removing the option to play with AI at all, except
Hmm.
for the goalie. Um,
So like
you
a
have
like a search
threes,
fill kind of thing.
either a search fill or like if you don't have your full team, you play drop in. Like you have so right now you have threes and you have sixes, right? So you can play 3v3 with an AI goalie.
Yeah.
You can play 4v4, or you can play 5v5 with AI goalie or 6v6. There shouldn't be an option to play like 2v2 or like 4v4 and sixes or whatever, because at the end of the day, the game's going to play a lot better with humans. And if you force people into those modes, I would think they would enjoy them. And two, it would like bring it's basically like if you're searching 2v2, it's basically a new mode. So you have all these different modes that people are playing, and if you put everyone in the same two modes, at least like the amount of people playing would seem higher, I guess.
Right. I think in general, also just encouraging more people to fill their team out is a good thing.
Yeah, of course.
Mm. What about the old like I'm reading this from Twitch chat, but what about the old community tab, like the lobbies and stuff? Do you think that that has anything that was good or better than like the current drop-in feature for like finding other people to play and stuff, or
Um, I mean, I miss the lobbies, but I don't know if bringing them back would actually do anything.
hmm,
Because the drop-in system now is relatively fine. Obviously, you want to find full games, but uh, I don't know. Like if you brought the lobby system back, I think it would be good in a way. Um,
hmm,
but I don't know how you would encourage people to actually use it. Is
okay.
the thing because you can just click drop in and get relatively the same experience.
Yeah. Um, one, and this is a little unrelated, but the other thing that you always hear about from people talking about World of Shell is like the people want the 2K system, the not necessarily the build system and the fact that you're linked to your Via Pro or whatever, but just like the open worlds kind of environment and things. Do you
Mhm.
value that at all? Do you think that that would be good? Do you not care even the slightest bit about the fact that we're just in menus?
Um, I mean, I don't really care about the open world stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, I I like it would be cool because I feel like it would bring more people in, I think, because
Hmm.
other people might be interested in it. Um, my main thing is just that when you go into the mode, there's information surfaced to you that could make you want to play the mode, I
Hmm.
guess. Like if you see that you're rank 2000 and you want to improve that, that's good. So if there was an open world feature and like there was like a leaderboard part of like you walk around, you see a leaderboard like where you are and like where the top teams are, that would make it worth it to me. And I think that would be huge. But you could do that in the menus too. So for me, it's not a huge deal.
Okay. Okay. Last thing before, and I will
Yep.
open up questions for Twitch chat if anybody has any. Um, but last thing, big complaints that I get about World of Shell is the hockey bags system. The fact that they
Hmm.
exist, the fact that they take forever to open, and the fact that when you open them, you get a bunch of rare goalie equipment. Uh, how do you feel about hockey bags? Do you have any ideas for how they could improve the system? Do you have any ideas for how they could make cosmetics more interesting, etc.?
I mean, an open all button would be cool because I'm sure I have like 20 of them sitting there and I don't even play search games.
Yep.
Um, I I think the hockey bag system's a good idea in theory. I think if there was more specific stuff that you had to unlock from accomplishments rather than just randomly, it would be good. Like I said, if hitting Elite 1 gave you like different stuff every month, rather than like and then rather than like putting a bunch of like this legendary equipment in bags that everyone ends up getting
Yeah.
eventually, or worse, you can only get it randomly and you don't end up getting it eventually. And it's like the one thing you want.
Yeah.
Um, I think that would be something they could do. I would also like the ability to like I don't know how far away this would be conceptually for EA or like how long it would take to make. The ability to like trade in stuff you don't want
Hmm.
um for like some sort of currency to
Yeah.
buy the thing you do want. Um
Yeah, I think the
that would be
storefront
cool.
system is definitely like what they're missing as far like when you compare it to any other game really that has cosmetics. I mean, it's like the common
Hmm.
thing right now is that you have well, some sort of like rotating storefront system where you have a currency, you earn currency based on playing. Obviously trade-ins would be good, but I feel like every game has that now. So
Yeah, I think that would improve it a lot. And like again, cosmetics aren't like a huge thing for me,
yeah,
but I, I do think if you add like cool sticks, cool helmets, cool whatever, people will be interested because everyone likes to. A lot of the people that I talk to are interested in this stuff, even stuff like hair, which they wear helmets, so you don't actually see it. They
yeah.
care a lot about it, and I don't understand it, but I know they exist. So,
Yeah. No, I mean it's it exists simply because of how popular they are in even on sports games. Like, there's free to play games that have made so much money just off of selling cosmetics, so obviously people do care a lot about it.
hmm I mean, I say I don't care about cosmetics, but when I play FPS games, I do.
Yeah.
So I get it. I guess I do get it. I just don't get it for sports games, and maybe I just don't get it for games where I am super competitive in them.
Right.
Whereas like FPS, I play more casually, so I like to pretty skin, look cool,
Yeah.
nice.
Nice
Hmm.
weapon. knife skin
Yeah.
or whatever in CS. I don't know. I don't play CS, so.
Hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's all I had for you today. Thank you so much for doing this. This was a lot of fun. We had a lot of good conversation here. You had a lot of ideas that were really interesting, and definitely more in depth on like the AI and the gameplay that I was expecting to get into, which is really interesting.
Yeah. I enjoyed the conversation as well. This was fun.
Any final thoughts? Anything that we didn't get to that you would like to chime in?
Um, I don't think there's anything game related. Just the one thing I would like to say to people is it's kind of echoing on the clip you posted on Twitter a couple days ago.
Uh-huh.
Um, you don't have to worry about improving a ton at the game. You don't have to put a ton of time into the game if you're not having fun. I think a lot of people get caught up in the chase of rewards, and then because they're chasing rewards, they're playing so many games that they get frustrated that they're not very good. Make sure the things you're doing you're having fun with because it's very tiring, reading the complaints of the game that I know are just coming from people that have played their, like, 28th Rivals game of the last 2 days, because you know they're not putting their full effort into focusing on the game, and then at the end of the game, they're complaining about, like, the 1 bounce that cost them. But yeah, basically, take like, if you're not having fun with the game, either, like, fully check out and just grind for your rewards and don't worry about losing or whatever. Or on the opposite end of the spectrum, just don't play. If you're not having fun, just don't play. A much it's just much easier on you.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel that. I've spent a lot of time playing NHL the last however many years, and now I'm finally taking a step back because sometimes it just gets a little bit too toxic for my own brain.
Yeah, like I get it. I complain about the game when I'm playing and like it's there's times where you're not having fun, but if you're forcing yourself through it just for rewards to continue playing the game that you're not having fun at, like just try to break the cycle, try to, like, enjoy the time you're on the game a little bit more, and then you'll probably improve just from, like, looking at the game in a new light.
Hmm. All right, that is a good piece of advice. That was great. Nuge, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. This was a great first episode. This is a good way to kick off the podcast. For those who tuned in or who are listening not live, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. We will be back again with somebody new. I don't know who it is yet next week, Wednesday at noon. But thank you guys so much.